Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene. Today's date, July 24, 2025. Time in Texas, about 11 a.m. So some of my sources I'll use today. God in the Bible, Patriot Subscriber, Prometheus Update Through the Eyes of, BREITBART, Hal Turner, Daily Excellence, Interview, a show by Mike from Around the World. Some of the things we'll cover. Heat plus the Gulf. President Trump take down the deep state Fed. And ET battles in the sky. This'll be fun. So let's get started. And I'd like to say I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share. And for hitting the like button, that helps my channel to grow. So let's begin. We have this from Facebook. Yeah, so we have the system in the Gulf. Today, the National Hurricane Center continues to give it a 10% chance for development, 48 hours, 10% in the next 7 days. It's believed to come onshore to Texas all the way to Florida, beginning late tonight or early in the morning to bring rain. It is not a Gulf tropical system. And we have this. Planned Parenthood in Tyler, Texas has permanently been shut. We know that President Trump brought about defunding of Planned Parenthood, which reflects the Christian view of America: no abortions. And we have this from Secretary of State Marco Rubio to begin an investigation into Harvard's visa program. We know that many of the colleges and universities President Trump has gone after, such as Columbia and Harvard, have actually been receiving money, we believe, from foreign nations to bring in their college students who function essentially in the U.S. as foreign spies. And we have this, a new poll. American voters reject the Dem political party's extremism. They describe the Dem party as being off the rails. And we're seeing that recent example of the MI6 infiltrator Zohran Mamdani running as mayor of New York City, believed to have been put in the U.S. by the MI6 as it put in former President Obama. So we see the deep state is functioning, and primarily through the Dem political party. We have this from EARTHMASTER. We continue to see activity in Alaska and the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia, roughly 50 miles from Alaska. And we know we had that 7.34. We've had 4 6.6s, many 4s and 5s, but they continue. The same thing in this area. We had a 7.3, then a 6.2, a 6.3. But the activity is continuing, especially along the Cascadia area of the U.S. So that's going on. And it's extending all the way down into Japan. Now, an interesting thing I found about Japan is, by law, they will not allow Muslims into Japan. They consider them to be fanatics. Maybe the U.S. should think about using this same technique, because many of us do believe that. And we've had EARTHMASTER also reports Mount Rainier, that's in Washington State near Seattle, in the past 20 days has had 1,000 small quakes. So we see shaking going on. And we have this from a Patriot subscriber. This is relating to the information I've been putting out about HHS Secretary RFK Jr. wanting in the next 4 years for all Americans to be wearing a wearable, a wristband that carries our medical information. Now, many believe also carries our DNA that might relate to organ transplants. And the purpose of the wearable, the wristband, is also to monitor your bios. Now, I have a Patriot subscriber who says the COVID swab was to get DNA. And also puts this forth. And yesterday, my last video, I put out that NATO is planning to attack Kaliningrad. So we have Russia, Ukraine, and then on this side is a Russian enclave. It's on the other side of Lithuania and Poland. And NATO has a plan to attack Kaliningrad, one of the most heavily fortified places in the world. So my Patriot subscriber says the attack on Kaliningrad will happen August 6th to 7th. My Patriot subscribers often know a lot of info. And we have this from Patriot subscriber talking about the wearable wristband that's one step from the mark of the beast. And another Patriot subscriber talking about the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution guarantees American citizens freedom from on their secure in their homes, freedom from searches of our persons and our papers and our effects. So that's going on. Yeah, my Patriot subscribers have a lot of knowledge about the Constitution. So we have this space weather. A weak CME has come off the sun. It will hit Earth over the weekend and produce a low-level G-1 electromagnetic storm. We've had a 6.3 in Indonesia that was 62 miles deep. And so that's going on. And we have from BREITBART that Jim Jordan heads up a group in the House who want now to subpoena Bill Clinton, HRC, Comey, Loretta Lynch. She had been the head of the DOJ under Obama. Eric Holder, Merrick Garland, Bill Barr, Jeff Sessions, and Alberto Gonzalez regarding Epstein. So that's going on. And we have this from Breitbart. Now, Jim Jordan, representative, he's a Republican from Ohio, wants to put forth some action regarding President Trump, and talks about intel about Obama and his cabinet bringing about Russiagate. And it was the objectives of the Dems to either keep President Trump from being elected or to undermine his presidency. So we see a Dem political party operating as traitors against the American people and our Constitution. So that's going on. And now we have this from Dr. Michael SALLA. Russiagate was a hoax, and the purpose was to allow the deep state control over the U.S. government. And the deep state it includes Satanists. And we know the deep state is made up of the fallen angels and the Nephilim, who are definitely Satanists. So that I found remarkable that Michael Salla is putting that out. We have this from Mike from around the world, talking about a celestial event that happened in 1561 when the people in Nuremberg, Germany, saw in the sky ET battles. And they saw different shapes of, we know now, are spacecraft, like orbs, like crosses, and like cylinders. And these were, this event was put into a famous painting. It's been well documented. And before this battle between the ETs was seen in the sky in 1561 over Nuremberg, Germany, there was over the sun 2 red arcs. So we'll see if we start seeing that, because Mike from around the world says we'll see this soon. And so in 1561, it's described as celestial event. So if you want to research it, put in celestial event 1561. You'll bring up a lot of references. There were different shapes of, we know now, are UFOs in the sky. And it lasted a whole year, and many years from 1560 to about 1566. So on a timeline, we have 2025. So this happened roughly about 500 years ago. So 1560 to 61, about 500 years ago. And we know that could tie into cycles. We'll have to research that. And people were seeing these different shapes of ET craft in the sky, and they were engaging in battles. I know many space battles are recorded in, I think it's called the Vegas in India. So that was going on. And Mike from around the world puts forth that information that came out from Bob Lazar. He was an Area 51 whistleblower. Mike from around the world says everything Bob Lazar put out is true. And that in 1561 there was a mass sighting of orbs, crosses, and the cylinders in the sky over Nuremberg, Germany. And the people could see aerial battles between the different shapes. And in 1561, also seen over the sun were 2 red arcs that were seen over Germany. And according to the internet, additional sky battles of the ETs took place in 1566 over Basel, Switzerland, and 1665 over Stralsund, Germany. And there were many reported UFO sightings. Now, Mike from around the world puts forth that we will soon see this again in our skies. So get ready. Have your camera ready. And yes, and he says it'll be unbelievable to the people, and that humans. This will bring about a change of human life on Earth. People will become more spiritual. Many people will turn to God when they see ETs battling in the sky. I'm totally confident of that. So that's going on. And we do have an interstellar object in our solar system now being touted as a comet. So we'll see. Now we'll talk about some political things going on. So President Trump continues to make moves to make America great again. And from the eyes of ANIA, a Polish journalist, and also PROMETHEUS updates, we have this. Russia now passes a law to make it illegal to worship Satan. And I believe the U.S. should do the same. I know I had a shock revelation from God that would have been probably about maybe 2018, that under the U.S. Constitution, where it talks about freedom of religion, God's intent was freedom of religion to worship Him. And that would include the Christian religion and certain groups of the Judaism. And it did not cover other religions like Muslims, Hindu, Buddhist, and certainly not Satan. So a correct interpretation of the Constitution would be freedom of religion to worship God, not Satan. So we see we have a constitutional basis for outlawing Satanism in the U.S. And I believe that should be enlarged to include taking down any satanic emblems or statues in the U.S. and definitely getting Satan worship out of our schools. So that's going on. And we have this, talking about DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, bringing out this declassed documents regarding Obama's, and President Trump said Obama signed the orders to bring about Russiagate. And it also involved British assistance and was put in place by Tony Blair. And this is coming out that actually Obama was an MI6 plant in the U.S. by the deep state, just as we're seeing with this Joram Mandami in New York City. But this is new information to me that Obama, I always believed he was deep state. I didn't realize the direct mechanism to put Obama in place came through MI6 in Britain, which is a deep state organization. And we have this, yes, in 2008, we had a major economic breakdown in the U.S. And somewhere around that time, the Glass-Steagall law was taken down, and Glass-Steagall was taken down before the 2008 economic crash. Glass-Steagall was taken down by the deep state, the law. Glass-Steagall's purpose was to prevent commercial banks from engaging in speculation or risk. So Glass-Steagall was taken away by the deep state via our Congress, and we know many in Congress are controlled by the deep state. And then we have that economic crash in 2008. President Trump talks about bringing back the Glass-Steagall Act to protect our banking system. So that's going on. And part of that will also bring down the Fed Reserve. The Fed Reserve is not part of the federal government. It is a deep state controlled by the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, plus control the U.S. economy through the Federal Reserve, which is not part of the U.S. federal government. And Prometheus Updates brings out this information. In 1908, the deep state put in place a similar secret police like Germany in World War II had, the SS. Only in the U.S., it's the FBI. Then in 1913, they brought in the Federal Reserve. They had to have a secret police in place to take people out of the way, including politicians and citizens, to put in place the Federal Reserve, which we know President Trump is intent on taking down. The deep state also controls the CIA. And we're seeing an expose of Obama, Epstein, the Federal Reserve, and this is to also prepare the American people for a change in our economic system. Now, we know the IRS is not legal in the U.S. There's no law putting in place the IRS. It's also a deep state operation that comes out of Puerto Rico. And that U.S. tax dollars flow to Puerto Rico. Then they go to the City of London. That's a section of the City of London called the City of London. Okay, we have London, and then we have a small section, and it's called the City of London. It's the financial control base for the deep state for global control through central banks over all nations. U.S. tax dollars go to Puerto Rico, then over to London, where the money then is loaned back to the U.S. with interest. And that's why I say the so-called debt the U.S. has is totally fake. So that's going on. And we'll see a new, it's believed, a new U.S. dollar. And I believe many people are familiar with this concept. We've been hearing about it at least for 5 years. That the Fed would go away. We will have a new currency. And currently, the U.S. dollar is the strongest currency in the world. Thanks to President Trump, his tariffs program, and investment in the U.S. Make America great again. And now we have this, talking about health changes in the U.S. RFK Jr., Secretary of HHS, will put forth a ruling to remove mercury from all flu shots. Yeah, did you know that every time you take a flu shot, you're actually taking in mercury? That's not good for us. And we have this, that, yes, in the 1950s is when the deep state put fluoride in the U.S. municipal water system. Fluoride is also not good for your health. And at that same time is when HHS said, yes, and you should drink 8 glasses of water a day. So, yeah, that's going on. And fluoride in the water is banned in 98% of European countries. Yeah. The Europeans do have laws and rulings in place that tend to protect human health a lot more than the U.S. did in the past. I believe going forward, we will see a healthier America. And we have this key findings. People in the U.S. Have more faith in their voting process now that President Trump was elected, and that intel agencies, we know, associated and directed by Obama, brought about the fake information about Russiagate that involved many intel agencies. It's coming out that HRC, who personally I believed had already passed away, but maybe she's still alive in some form, but she's daily on heavy sedatives. And the fake Steele dossier was funded by and ordered by HRC and funded by the Dem political party and put together in the UK under the MI6. So that's going on. And we have this, a White House report. Tulsi Gabbard has released many documents that happened last Friday through Monday, substantiating that former President Obama and his cabinet brought about the fake Russiagate Steele dossier information and sold it to the American people as being true via the deep state controlled mainstream media. So that's going on. And now we have this from the White House report. President Trump requires nations to have tariffs, to pay the U.S. tariffs, and that also he requires them to open their markets to U.S. products. And we have a great report for President Trump's taking down of illegals 2 months in a row. We had 0 illegals coming in over our southern border. And President Trump has been instrumental in bringing peace between Pakistan, India, and in the Congo, and is certainly supported by the American people. President Trump, it's believed, should receive the Nobel Peace Prize. And we have this. Tulsi Gabbard, regarding former President Obama, directly took actions to not only keep President Trump from being elected, but to undermine his presidency. Thus, Obama, we now know, well, many Americans believe from the beginning, President Obama, not born in America, not educated in America. I mean, there were no records of his birth, no records of his education. And it's now coming out that he was actually put in place. We knew he was put in place by the deep state, but the mechanism was through MI6 in the UK. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.